So dumb.
I figured we'd start it with this one.
And there he goes.
And you know what? Oh, yep. Oh,
So you sent this to me, and I didn't realize what was happening there. He whacked himself in the junk.
you
And
replied to me like he's so happy. I'm like, how much did Anthony watch? I'm like, yeah, he's happy until
I didn't, because I was watching it on my phone when you texted it to me, and I just wasn't like paying close attention because he just looked like such a happy bear, and then he gets whacked in the junk and he just goes down. Oh man, just us tonight, dude. We kind of needed a show with no guest. Next week's jam packed, and Thursday. Who's the priest coming on Thursday?
Father Peregrine Fletcher. He's a Norbertine.
Oh, he's a Norbertine, and he wrote a book on Saint Philomena.
A children's book on Saint Philomena. Yep.
And Rob just named his daughter that. So he's only coming on for 30 minutes, though, right?
Yeah. So I think we'll just more or less briefly go through maybe a quick story about Saint Philomena. You know, who she is, how we know about her, and then why he decided to do the book. And that's probably all we'll have time for with him.
Yeah, we'll get him on for 30 minutes, and then we'll jump from that right into just a regular episode of me and Rob. But then Tuesday, we have Charles Frown.
Frawny.
Frawny? Frown?
Yep.
Frawny? I'm gonna correct him on his pronunciation.
Oh, coming from you, that's rich.
Then Thursday, we have Keith Nestor. Keith Nestor is a Protestant convert. And him and I just been going back and forth talking a lot on Twitter lately, and I want to just hear his story. I want to hear about how his wife reacted when he was coming in, and how it's been since he's been in the church.
He's really known for, he started doing rosary live streams when the pandemic hit, right? And that's, I guess, kind of how he got to be known.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah. So we'll ask him like what got him started on his channel. You know, I want to ask him a bunch of stuff, and then just get like a general sense of how he's doing since becoming Catholic. And like him and I both kind of want to get people to chill a bit, like, because there's a tendency in everybody to, like, if somebody doesn't agree with 100% of what you think, it's like we cut these people off, or everybody's running around excommunicating each other. And so both of us have just been kind of, chatting a little bit about just like, all right, everybody calm down a little bit. Like, I want to get Catholics from all walks of life on here. We had Daniel O'Connor on. Daniel O'Connor, like, shockingly great guest, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was
I knew nothing about him. He was really fun.
Really fun. He's got a little bit of the charismatic in him, but he also goes to the traditional Latin Mass. So it's like Keith Nestor has been a beacon of light in these upside down times. Yeah. So I've been watching a bunch of Keith's shows. I enjoy his show. I think he's a really good guy. So we're going to get him on. And then Saturday we have Gavin Ashenden.
Mm-hmm.
I have Father Maudsley rebooked.
Yep.
September 9th.
I don't know if I told you this, but Tan is going to get Dr. K for us for the book. Yeah. For the Once and Future Roman Rite, and then also for his book on sacred music.
Okay, I have to read the Once and Future Roman Rite then.
Yep.
I think if I would have reached out to him through Father Laval, he would have came on with us though, because I had a good conversation with him at the conference.
Probably, I'm sure. Yeah. They did send me a physical copy. I can send you that because I've already.
I'll buy it. I'll get the audiobook because I do better with audiobooks. But also, I don't know. I think John Henry Weston's blowing me off.
Yeah, can you blame him?
I texted him. He didn't respond. I texted him and he was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I don't know. He might just be busy. Who knows, But I retexted him this morning.
I'm sure he's very busy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's only got LifeSite News to run, So we'll give him a couple days on that one. But yeah, so we're going to get Father Maudsley back on. John Henry Weston will get on. He's got a lot going on right now, I think. Anthony needs the Cliff Note version. Oh, since Steve's in the audience, everybody.
Steve, you're going to regret this.
Since Steve is in the audience, I want you guys to know that Steve Cunningham has officially lost his mind, and he's now sending me voicemails serenading me.
Hello from the tranny side. I must confess 1,000 times.
What is wrong with him? He's
hear you sorry for the liturgical wars.
What? Why, Steve? Stop playing. Dude, what is going on with Steve Cunningham?
I like this. Beautiful.
Steve has lost his mind. He just sends me the most random things. The thing I'm happy about is it wasn't at 2 a.m, because a lot of times he'll send those to me very late in the night. I had an Adele moment in between uploads today, he says. Oh man. All right. I want you to play the boat video because I got a little story to tell before we get into our main topics tonight. We do have some good topics tonight, though, everybody. You guys know somebody tweeted today that he goes, because their podcast is really good once you get past the first 30 minutes of bro love. It's like
he's just like, well, I can't really be mad because they're not wrong.
But you need to have like a friendly conversation to get going before you get into the heavy topic. I don't know what to tell you guys. If you don't like it, watch the replay and skip the first 30 minutes. It gets good after 30 minutes.
And for whoever had Anthony Boat Story on their bingo card, you can now mark that space.
No, this one's good though. So I got a video to play that it's very relevant to what I did this weekend. So.
Hold on, is there any swearing in it?
No,
Okay.
No swearing. Oh, maybe, but not bad. It might be. Yeah,
I'm
so
honestly
exciting.
surprised they made the first three.
So exciting. No, that you easily make, right? And then, oh, they're all down.
His problem is he wasn't keeping the speed up.
He needed to get that nose way up.
Yep.
So you can kill it now. So Sunday. So, I mean, I have a bunch of boat stories from this weekend. Friday after work. I mean, everybody saw that. We posted that on the channel. But 30 minutes of guys being dudes. Yeah. So Sunday is my daughter's birthday. I didn't see the World Youth Day opening ceremony.
I haven't either.
I haven't seen that. I want to get into something very specific about that, though. So Sunday's my daughter's birthday. So I have my whole family on the boat plus 3 of my daughter's friends. And we were driving to in between the forks of Long Island. Okay. So now where I live is about, normally I would launch it in Riverhead, which is in between the forks. And then it would be a 15-minute drive to the beach where we would go.
Hold on. No one knows what you're talking about. Let me pull up a map.
In between the forks. So if you look at Long Island kind of looks like a fish kind of with 2 tails. It's like, let's see if you got it. All right, there you go. You got it. Let's see. All right, so you see these, use the arrow and point between the forks.
Here?
I don't see your arrow.
On the right, like these?
Okay, yeah. So right there. So yeah, let's zoom right in on that. Okay, so now if you see
geography lesson, everyone.
Yeah, so look, if you see Long Island, do you see how there's this? I wish I had the pointer. So do you see how there's like a beach running along the bottom there? Like that little skinny strip right there? That's called a barrier beach, okay? So that runs almost the whole length of Long Island. That's a barrier beach. So I launched my boat. Normally I would launch in Riverhead, which is on the north side of that fork, right around where Rob's Pointer is now. And then the beach is like south of that. So like, all right, you see that bridge right there? All right, so that's the Shinnecock Inlet, and then the beach would be right next to it. Okay, so you see how there's a little break in the land right there? Okay, so now the beach where the green thing is right there. That's where the beach where I had to go was, okay? So now zoom back out, and I'll show everybody what I did. So now I left from, go towards Hampton Beach. You see it says Hampton Beach? Go that way so I could, and just keep going. That would be west. Okay, so a little more. No, go down south. Now go west. All right, so even more. All right, so okay, right about there. You see it says Blue Point? See it says Blue Point right there?
Yeah.
That's where I launched my boat. Okay. Now I launched my boat, took it east now, that whole way back under that bridge. Keep going. Go under that bridge. Keep going. Now you see that little opening right there? That's the opening. That's the Moriches Inlet. Okay, that takes you out to the ocean. So in between the south of Long Island and that barrier beach is called the Great South Bay. And then you have that inlet right there. That's the Mauritius Inlet. That takes you out to the ocean. So now I took my boat. This is a 35-mile run on my boat, okay? Each way. So 35 miles there, 35 miles back. The first 10 miles, you're inside the Great South Bay, which is behind that barrier beach. The water is calm. I get to the Mauritius Inlet. This is the first time I've ever done this. When you're leaving the Mauritius Inlet, it looked like that boat video we just watched, where you're getting curling waves coming over that inlet because it's such a skinny inlet. It's really only about 150 feet from one side to the other. So we're coming out. My wife is losing her mind on me, like freaking out.
Well, that and the waves are going to build up on this shallow area here.
Right. So that's a sandbar. Yeah. So when you come out, you have to come out and follow that deep water and then go around like that. That's only like 4 or 5 feet deep, right where that shallow area is.
Yeah.
So coming out, these waves are curling. My wife is losing her mind, freaking out. I'm like, shut up. I have to pay attention here. I've never done this before. I got kids on the boat that aren't my kids. I'm flying through. I finally break through. We get out onto the ocean, open ocean, and it's a sheet of glass once you pass that one little spot. So now I got to go on the ocean and go east. So head all the way east. Now you see that second break? That's where I come back in. That's a 20-mile run. I come in through there and I go back into nah, so
why did you do that instead of
driving behind there?
Yeah.
There's so many 5-mile-an-hour zones inside behind the barrier beach. So a 20-mile run going 30 miles an hour takes about 40 minutes. If you're behind that barrier beach, that would take about 2.5 hours. So a boat ride from where I left, it was 35 miles. I'm going 35 miles an hour on the boat. It took about an hour and 25 minutes, hour and 30 minutes. There's some spots where you got to slow down and stuff like that. If I would have stayed behind the barrier beach, it would have been 3 hours. So my wife is freaking out the whole time we're on the ocean. She's sitting there like this, angry with me that I did it, with a sour face on. And all of a sudden we see 2 dolphins jump out of the water in the ocean, and she perks right up. And she gets her camera out and she's taking pictures and she's happy.
I just love how your ancestors literally crossed the ocean and discovered this continent, and here you are having trouble with a little inlet.
Dude, I have a small boat, so like if you have a big boat, you get right through there, no problem. Right. But when you're on a 24-foot bow rider, it's like, and you got kids that aren't your kids, and you're going through these curling waves. Like I was nervous, dude. My son talked me into it. My son's like, come on, Dad, let's do it. Come on, we're good. Let's do it. We got out and we made it. And then when you go back inside the forks, you'll see there's locks there. So if you go back inside the forks,
yeah,
you'll see
you're talking
right there.
Right,
so this channel here, this separates the Peconic in between the forks and the Great South Bay, which is behind the barrier beach. So I brought a video. I posted the video in there of locks. Now, I didn't know these were all over the place. You told me there's like a bunch near you even, right?
Not near where I am now, but where I grew up in the Twin Cities, between like St. Paul and Red Wing, which is a little city about half a mile or half an hour south. There's 6 locks on the Mississippi, where there used to be rapids, right? But that they built these dams and locks so that barges can now travel from the upper Mississippi to the lower Mississippi.
Yeah, so it's basically a giant elevator for boats, right? So you pull in, it holds about 20 boats. So what it is there's these 2 doors that so if you go during slack tide, the doors are open and you can just drive your boat right through. But when it's high tide inside the Great South Bay and low tide in the Peconic, you pull in this chamber and you see that door in front. That door closes. When you pull in, that door's closed and the door behind you is open. Then they close the door behind you and they open the door in front after they raise the water level up. Now, I've never done this before. So I've always wanted to, because I'm like, it just sounds like such a cool thing. Like you go in, now that water level raised up like 8 feet. So we pulled in, and when we pulled in that gate, like that water is all the way up now. Crazy that no other Catholic channels are covering this.
I like this one.
I watched 15 minutes of Anthony sitting in a skid steer while his crew raked blacktop this week.
Hey, we don't do things other people do, clearly.
Oh, we're trying to do something different here, guys. You're just hanging with your friends. I'm just trying to teach you guys some fun stuff on Long Island. So eventually those doors open and you can get rid of the video. Let's cover the other topic that we had that was pivotal Catholic content, which was the guy
almost dying
on the zip line. Yeah, I gotta see this. You guys have to see this zip line video. I had such anxiety watching this zip line video, it almost killed me. All right, so this guy,
I didn't listen to it with the sound on. Is that okay with the sound?
There's no cursing, nothing like that.
Yeah, he's too busy trying not to die.
Yeah, so a real zip line would have a wheel, like the carabiner would hook onto a wheel pulley system. And the wheel would be running on top of that friction. Yeah. Now these carabiners, that's steel, right? But they wear down. Like steel wears down when you rub steel on steel. It's like iron sharpens iron. You're gonna wear down that steel. Just watch this guy go down. And you told me the water was calm.
Busted by your mom. No, Mom, it was fine. I swear. It wasn't dangerous at all.
When we got on the ocean, it was totally calm. But getting out, it was very scary. So.
Yes, everyone is on the bark of Anthony on this show.
All right, let's watch this guy go down. Because I almost, I get anxiety. I'm very, I hate heights, man. Now watch this. Look how thin that carabiner is. He's trying to throw himself down with his hand.
You know you've made a mistake when the steel is smoking.
So that might be rust coming off, but he doesn't even have gloves on. Just think about what he's trying to grab right now. If his hand gets caught between that cable and that carabiner, he will rip the skin off his hand so quickly. Look how fast he's going. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. I would die. Now watch where this goes. This is so not done.
That's tough.
He just hit another cable, right? So now listen to him hit.
He's trying to figure out how he's going to get that carabiner over that
other side of that cable, dude. What would possess this guy to do this? Look, what? This looks like he's sitting in a chair. He's sitting on a piece of wood. Right? That is the scariest thing I've ever seen. That clip will wear down from going that fast on that metal. I don't know if that guy got. I guess he got out alive because we got the video. But
I don't know. Electronic storage is pretty robust.
Yeah, it's that's saved on a memory card. That's all they needed to survive, right?
Maybe it uploaded to the cloud.
Dude, that is so that is anxiety inducing for me. I could never, man. I am not good with heights.
I understand wanting an adrenaline rush, right? There's no adrenaline rush worth that.
No, that's just pure fear, man. I don't understand how people do things like that. That's so crazy. All right, so let's see what else we got for everybody. We do have a crazy Karen video. Should we do Catholic content? How long have we been going? We got another 10 minutes of bro talk. We got 10 more minutes of bro talk, and then we'll get into Catholic content, guys. Settle down. I'm mad at this guy that he pointed that out because that's really what we do. We do 30 minutes of bro talk.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this one ready. Okay. Any major swearing on this one?
No swearing at all. But this woman is totally out of her mind.
Well, you can... Never mind.
Let's see it.
Why did you call the police?
Because you should have to pay for parking like an idiot.
Pay for I just dropping something off really
I don't
quickly.
really care what your reason is. The police are on their way, and I'm just really tired of people like you with no respect for how
The
to
police
park.
are not coming.
Yes, they are coming.
No, they are not.
Yes, they are coming.
For what?
To give you a ticket.
For what?
Parking like an idiot.
That's not a thing.
There is a law against it.
No, there's not.
You're handicapped parking, and you don't look handicapped.
I'm good.
to me.
I'm trying to leave right now, but you're not letting
You're
me.
not leaving.
Yes, I am. I'm gonna leave.
You're not leaving.
What?
You're not going anywhere.
What are you doing?
I'm just gonna make sure.
Can you
stay here.
imagine?
You know, that
Can you
is
imagine?
she's technically trying to kidnap him.
Okay. He actually says that to her, but now if I'm in my truck and this woman does this and I have a water bottle, she's getting doused. Like I'm just squirting her with my water. There's no way.
I would just slowly pull away. I mean, if she breaks the mirror, she can pay for it.
But I love how this guy writes Karen's messing with the wrong people. Like the guy doesn't do anything. He just sits there. He's gently like, please, ma'am, let me go. He's like being so polite.
I just
He's
want
not
to go
even-
home.
She's so lucky she didn't do this to me. I would just start squirting her. These women need to be sent to Saudi Arabia.
But Joe, they can drive there now too.
Oh no. They're
Yeah,
going
I know.
liberal too. Terrible.
The last bastion has finally fallen.
Their one redeeming quality, they don't let women drive.
They didn't.
You can play a few more seconds of it. I mean, it's
Okay.
like 4 minutes long. We don't have to go through the
For
whole
what?
thing.
For what reason? I don't. Are you? You're filming me now?
I'm filming you, filming me. Yes. You know why?
Why?
Because you're an idiot.
Because
I
I'm an
want
idiot.
proof of it. The
You want
police
proof
will
of
see
what?
this video. The proof of that you park like an idiot.
Now
You're
my
filming
mom's
me.
in the
It doesn't even
chat.
show anything besides me.
You're
Mom, I really hope you don't ever do anything like this, Mom. My mother would never. She's like the total opposite of a Karen, my mom. Yeah, this woman is bonkers, man. Like she just for the fact that she doesn't even know who she's messing with, right?
Yeah.
Like she don't listen to him, Annie. You're the best. All right. So what story do you want to get into? You know what? What do you think about the kids doing mass thing? Kids saying mass.
What do I think about?
Yeah, like in general. Okay, so there's been like this trend of people posting videos of their kids dressed up in cassocks and like doing playing mass, like
Yeah.
as role playing, right? And in one aspect, it's like this is probably an awesome way to foster a vocation, and in the other aspect, it's like, are you messing around with sacrilege here, right? And I think intention has a lot to do with it.
I would say there's definitely no way the kids are committing any sort of sacrilege.
The kids aren't, right? It's not intentional, right?
And I would say the parents maybe. If the parent is forcing it, right, like against the kid's will or wishes.
Well, so Michael Naden says Lou Verrecchio explained this well. So this is where I got this from. He wrote an article on it explaining it, and I read the article. He did make some good points about the sacrilege angle, right? But my point was if the parents are pushing it on the kids, like you just said, right? Like if the parents are pushing it on the kid and doing it to film it, to put it on social media for likes and clicks, like that makes me nervous.
Right. If it's like someone with a social media presence, and I don't mean just like someone with a Twitter account or Instagram posting for their friends. I mean like an influencer of whatever sort.
Like Brandon
Then
Vaught.
yeah, that's not right. What did you say?
Like Brandon Vaught from Word on Fire, because that's where the article derived from.
Oh, is it
Brandon
really?
Vaught is the one who posted the original video of his kid doing it. So that's
He's one of
Lou
the big muscle-bounded.
No. Brandon Vaught, he's a convert. I remember seeing his story on the journey home, and then I played an infantryman getting gunned down on Omaha Beach as a child. Did that go against filial piety? Yo, we have the funniest audience in the world.
Getting sent to hell because you played Medal of Honor as a kid.
All right, so it's like you want to foster your kid's vocation, right? And I've heard priests say they played mass as a kid. Like a couple of priests said, like, no, this is something I did as a kid. My parents fostered it, and kids are going
Pius
to mimic.
XI.
Yeah, there you go. So like kids are going to mimic the things that they see adults doing, and it's obviously better than for them to mimic something like that than bad behavior, right?
Mm-hmm. You know, for instance, like, you know, I know that there's people on like Etsy that make like vestment sets for kids and stuff. And I've asked like Maddie, I'm like, Maddie, would you want me to get this so you can pretend being a priest? And he just looks at me like,
Nope.
he just, no, Dad. Okay, well, that's the end of that.
We caught a rough comment because of we read that on air with the woman that was mad about like the, you know, if your kid has a vocation thing. Like, it really is a scary time, man, if your kid has a vocation.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's been times in church history where it was definitely maybe pushed a little too much on children, especially younger children and children who didn't stand to inherit and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say like it was necessarily a bad thing, but there was probably definitely a time in the church history where people were kind of pushed towards vocations they didn't truly feel called to.
A lot of second-born sons.
Right. But at the same time, in the end, that was probably really good for society as a whole. But
but the priesthood held a way more prestigious position back then, right? Right.
And back then there were monasteries where they could go and do whatever sort of work they were interested in for the greater glory of God. We don't so much have that these days. And I don't know, why would you push a kid into a vocation they didn't have at this point in time? You know what I mean? Like it's
too easy for them to go to get corrupted. It's like
for them to end up in Italy after leaving a note back at home.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, all right. So then Anthony Stein did 2 articles this week, and I thought they were both really interesting. One was on, I guess we'll do World Youth Day. Like, World Youth Day has James Martin going to speak at it. Right. Yep. Anthony, I got the St. Joseph Baltimore Catechism book, and I absolutely love it. It's so innocent and childlike. It's beautiful. Thank you for recommending. So James Martin is going to be speaking at World Youth Day. And it's like, we're at a point now where the church is hosting this event for 1 million kids, young people coming, and they're going to hear heterodox teaching now. It's basically the LA Rec that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
What are we actually doing with this thing? And it's like, I see like Chris Stefanik is going.
Plus, aren't they also, as part of the actual official program, going to be bringing these kids to like places of Jewish and Mohammedan worship too?
Are they?
I've heard that, and I'm not going to say it's necessarily true because I don't know, but I have seen that somewhere. That as part of the program, they're going to be introducing kids to more or less other religions.
It's like, if you're going to have a World Youth Day and you're actually putting up a priest who's going to talk to kids and tell them how the rainbow stuff is okay and legit. Like, I'm having a hard time understanding, like, like how do people let their kids go to this thing at this point?
When I was growing up, which isn't as recent as I used to think, I don't know. It was just something like the parish kind of pushed on you as.
Did you ever go to one?
No. I forget. There was one big one. The big one with JP2 was a little bit
Denver, right?
Yeah, I think Denver was the one. That was just before I would have been really old enough to, and then he got pretty sick and invalid. And so then it was a while until I think Benedict did one, and by then I was too old. So we're not too old, but I'd gone off to school and kind of fallen away from the church. So I kind of missed a good time period there, and I'm not sad about it, to be quite honest.
Well, everybody always talks about the Eucharistic sacrilege, right? But at least during JP2 and Benedict, you were getting solid homilies and things like that, right? Like you've always had Eucharistic abuse. Like you see the videos, it's just 10,000 people handing wafers back to the next person. Like, you know how many of those get dropped on the floor, how many of those are it's almost like, why even
there's probably
communion?
more Eucharistic abuse at one World Youth Day than there was during 100 years during the Middle Ages.
That's what I mean. It's like, why even serve communion at an event like that?
Really, why? There's no need for it. It's not necessary.
I mean, you could even celebrate Mass and just not distribute communion.
Right. Exactly.
Like, okay, you guys want to you guys want to be here for Mass? That's fine. Why do 1 million people need to receive communion? I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
It really goes against the Eucharistic theology of the Latin Church for almost 2,000 years. Like, it wasn't until Pius X where regular reception of the Eucharist was encouraged. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, of course, but like King St. Louis IX, he attended Mass twice every single day, and he received communion only 6 times over an entire year.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, like daily communion which pope was it? It was like Pius X or something.
Pius
X is the one who encouraged weekly communion, I think, right? Like, it was, people would go to Mass every week, but they didn't always receive communion. It was like, so there's two ways to look at that. It's like, because I remember during COVID, when we weren't allowed to receive, like, it built a real anticipation. And there was something beautiful about that, right? Like, it was like, oh man, I can't wait to receive communion. Almost like when you go every week, it's kind of like, like people actually think like the point of going to Mass is to receive communion, and it kind of distorts people's understanding of Mass.
Well, it's one of the main arguments you hear when you try to show people the difference between, say, the TLM, the traditional Roman Rite, and the Novus Ordo. One of the main arguments you hear in opposition is, well, the Eucharist is still the Eucharist, that's all that matters. And it's really a reductionism that breaks down the entire liturgy to just the sacrament. And yeah, that sacrament obviously is at the heart of it, but that sacrament isn't the Mass. It's not the liturgy. There's so much more to it than that. And if that's all it was, why don't we just have a priest get up there, say the words of institution, the words of consecration, and take communion? Why do we have anything else added to it then?
Yeah, I remember during COVID, we were doing like home liturgies. I never watched Mass on TV. I just couldn't do that. Like, I just never was able to do watching Mass on TV. It felt wrong. Like, something wrong about not being in person at the Mass. So what we did was a home liturgy, and we would actually read the readings out of the missal, the traditional missal, and then we would pray a rosary together. And there was something beautiful about that time. Like, as much as, the lockdowns were terrible, there was something beautiful about me and my family coming together and me being the priest of my home. We couldn't receive, but we did spiritual communion, and we went through the liturgy, and we made sure we kept holy the Lord's Day. But I remember the first time we were able to go to confession, it was a parking lot confession. Like, we forget how crazy 2020 was, dude. Like, crazy 2020 was insane, man. And yeah, the first confession I could take my family to, because Father Mayara heard my confession in the city, but like the first one I was able to take my family to during lockdown was in a parking lot, and we did like drive-through confession. So the whole family would have to get out of the car while one person did confession, and then I went first. I pulled up. I went first, and then like my wife would come in the car and she would go, and then my kid would come in the car and he would go. It was a really strange time. And then when we were finally able to go to Mass and receive, it was very like it was very bittersweet because of the mask thing. Like, it was like, yeah, we get to go to Mass, but everybody's wearing masks, and it was like, I'll tell you, man. Went to the society during that. Nobody wore one there. And it was like, this is where I'm going right now. Tom, so the confession, I went to St. Pat's in, so Tom goes to the same parish as me. So for confession, it was St. Pat's in Huntington. And for Mass, I went to the society because they would actually let me receive, and I didn't have to wear a mask.
I was lucky enough to where I was actually the one helping our local parish do the live streams. So I went every Sunday, went to church, and Father could hear my confession if I needed, and I still got communion there as I was helping live stream. So I was personally pretty blessed. My family had to stay at home.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. So your family couldn't go with you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a time where it was like, if you had a good priest who you could count on, like you were still okay, you know, like,
Yeah.
But if you were just like an unknown at the parish, it was pretty rough for most people, you know? Man, that was a wild time, right? Yeah. So World Youth Day, I don't know, man. I don't know where it goes from here. It's like almost like, it's like not now they don't even get, like you have this guy who's running it saying we're not even looking to evangelize people anymore.
Yeah, and even if that ever was the purpose, like, how long are we going to continue to do these same things without changing them? Like, World Youth Day has been a thing for how long now? 30 years at least.
86, I think it started.
So almost 40 years.
40 years.
And look at the stats.
Yeah,
it is getting worse and worse among young people. Like these things aren't helping. Why would you want to take 1 million people, 1 million kids, put them all together when 79% of them are going to leave the church? Why would you want to take your kid who you think won't leave the church and put them with 100 kids where 79 of those kids are going to leave the church? How could that possibly help them?
so weird, man. It's like, but here's what's weird. It's like during John Paul, like you were too young, I think, to really grasp how big of a presence John Paul was. Like, especially before the scandals. Like, dude, before the scandals, you don't understand the presence this man had. Like, he made people, dude, he went before Gorbachev, and Gorbachev was trembling before him. Like it really was John Paul and Reagan who brought communism down in Russia. I mean, what we thought was bringing communism down, you know, but it was just like this man just had such a presence before the scandals broke. Once the scandals broke, it was like all of the authority he had was just done. Like, there were rumors about it and stuff, but when he would do an event like a World Youth Day, you have no idea the excitement and like just the anticipation for John Paul II coming. My parents went and saw John Paul II at City Field, which was it wasn't City Field back then. It was now it's City Field. What the heck was it before? Shea Stadium. They went and saw him at Shea Stadium, which was where the Mets played, and it was just bananas, dude. Like, I remember the whole city being shut down. It was crazy, you know?
I think that sort of papacy honestly hurt the church. That sort of celebrity pope, I think, only increased that sort of, papolatry that people have had since Vatican I. Like, I'm not saying JP2 is a bad guy or that's a whole.
You're saying that being in the spotlight like that.
I don't think that sort of pope helps us. At least not in this day and age. You know, I just don't.
There's something to the HBO series, which I never watched, but people have shown me clips of, like, the Pius the 13th.
Yeah,
you know, Jude Law plays Pius the 13th. I've never seen the show, but there's clips where he goes, "We're shutting everything down. No more interviews, no more anything. Like, we're going behind the walls of the Vatican."
No one got to see his face. You know, like, the show showed a lot of bad things. Obviously, it's HBO, but if you were to remove all those and have that kind of papacy, I think that would do more to help the church than a JP2 celebrity pope.
Yeah. It's like we kind of do need to bring back some of the mystique, the mystery, you know? It's like we don't want everybody so accessible. And now it's literally every day there's another news story of another cardinal coming out and saying something ridiculous. And it's just like, can you men just shut up? Can all of you just shut up?
Imagine how the church could have been different if JP2, instead of traveling all over the world, appearing on the news all the time, all over, giving speeches, instead sat down and actually learned the men who were the bishops, learned about the men who were his cardinals. Think of what he could have done to maybe stem the abuse crisis.
So Tom, I do too. It's a weird thing. It's like you hear all the things like that, especially younger trads that didn't live through the JP2 era, man. It's like, it's very easy to point out a couple of the things that JP2 did with the Assisi meetings. It's easy to point out the, you know, all the bad cardinals he elevated. But unless you lived through the magnitude of that papacy, man, it was just, I mean, I was a kid and I remember being like, holy cow. And I remember like Protestants were calling him the Antichrist. And it was like, I remember my mom.
Protestants always do that.
I know, but that's the point. I remember my mom being so mad. She's like, that man's a living saint. They're calling him the Antichrist. Like, but yeah, it's a hard one when you grew up with him, and like there's so many people who are JP2 Catholics, you know.
I just think we all need to be worried or more concerned about cults of personality, whether it's, you know, your normie cult of JP2, your trad cult of Lefebvre. Once again, I'm not saying any of these guys were bad or anything like that. I rather like Lefebvre, but I'm just saying, like, oh, well, look what happened with Father Jackson. You know, the cult of personality that's still trying to defend him. We just need to be careful of that sort of thing. The only cult of personality, the only cults we should care about are the cults of the saints.
Yeah. Yeah, I was more a Benedict guy too. So I was like, when Benedict got elected, I was like ecstatic. Like that was right around my conversion. Like when Benedict got elected, I was ecstatic. Like, are you kidding me? Like God's Rottweiler's the Pope, and he came out and he was meek, and he didn't do much, but it could have been worse, right? I mean,
we've seen what we could have had 10 more years of Francis.
That's what's funny about that. Like Francis
years.
was supposed to be elected during that conclave.
Yes. Yep, they say Francis was number 2.
It was almost like God granted us a little mercy, a brief respite from.
Ooh, we got a controversy.
Do y'all think JP2 is a saint? I still think the church has the ability to canonize.
I would say it is. It's like a sententia certa teaching that the canonizations are a secondary object of infallibility. So that means that we have to believe on pain of mortal sin that canonizations are infallible. So yes, I believe JP2 is in heaven. Do I believe it's prudential to name him a saint? I don't know. It's not up to me.
I don't think they should name anyone a saint right away. Yeah, like it's just bad judgment, right? Like you don't know what's going to come out.
I mean, it took longer to. I don't know how long it took to canonize Pius X. I would imagine it was longer than to canonize JP2, but like, I mean, so Pius X, for instance, was canonized under the old system, where there was the devil's advocate to argue against him, to dig every single thing up that could be used to say this man is not a saint and present it. And do you know the one thing that they found? The devil's, and I don't know, like, I don't have a source for this, but traditionally it said that the one thing found against Pius X, the one thing the devil's advocate could find, is that he one time, well, they found two things. One, he liked his cigarettes a little too much. And two, he one time said a low mass under 25 minutes, possibly because he needed a cigarette.
Now, that's why he's one of my favorites, by the way. Like, I love
because he needed his Newport.
He's at the Vatican Gardens smoking a cigarette. It's like one of my favorite parts about him. It's like Newports didn't exist back then. He was probably smoking non-filtered Pall Malls. Oh man. Oh, come on. He smoked every day. Definitely not a saint. So yeah, it's like I just think that I think like even like I'm glad Francis didn't right away try to make Benedict, canonize Benedict, because he made comments one time they're like, "Oh, what do you think about Benedict?" And he goes, "Well, I think when he'll be made because Benedict. I mean, Francis wants to canonize every pope since the council because it's his way of canonizing the councils, right? Right? And it's like, and Don made a good point. It's like JP2 he doesn't have a problem with. Paul VI is a hard one, like just for his lack of fortitude and standing up to the enemies of the church. Like that's a rough one. Like if a devil's advocate really went through that cause, it'd be like, are you kidding me?
And like the thing is, like, kind of along what Vincent is saying here, not so much the suffering, because I don't know what sort of suffering Paul VI might have had, but like these men, as far as we know, received last rites, right? Like they would have received confession if possible. They would have received an apostolic pardon. Like, so we believe that these things will get you to heaven, and the apostolic pardon, we believe, gets you to heaven right away.
Yeah.
So if they received last rites, they should be in heaven. And not to mention, even if they did have time in purgatory, they had 1 billion Catholics praying for their souls.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem believing like that they're in heaven and they're a saint in that sense.
Yeah, but the whole point of a saint and raising someone to the altars is that we should look to emulate their life.
Right. Their life should be an example of heroic
Yeah,
virtue.
like there was never a cult around Paul VI.
There still isn't.
That's what I mean. There was
He's
never
a canonized saint and no one prays to him.
nobody. Like
Except Mike Lewis, maybe.
Maybe Mike Lewis. I don't even think he does. I think he's too trad for him. Oh man! All right, so why don't you bring up the Italy's and Catholics diminish in number and no longer know their faith?
Okay.
So this is actually an article from the SSPX, and Anthony Stein. I grabbed the article from one of his videos. So if you guys aren't subscribed to, what is it? Return to Tradition is his channel.
Yes.
I think that's his channel. So yeah, he does great news stories every day. Not much commentary to him. He just kind of gives you the story, and I enjoy his channel. So Italy is full of splendid churches that are emptying. Christianity has become a clear minority in Italy. This is revealed by a new Maxi demographic survey carried out by the monthly Timon, or whatever. All right. Not only are
You're Italian and you don't know how to pronounce that?
I can, but I mean, it's going to come out like New York Guinea. It's not going to come out like real Italian. Not only are there few practicing Catholics, but many of them are unaware of the most rudimentary elements of the faith. More than a third of the Italian population, 37%, declare themselves non-believers, while those who declare themselves believers and Catholics those who declare themselves believers and Catholics who attend Mass represent only 13% of the total population. According to the study, this is a dwindling minority composed of a few young people and older faithful. This may be what Our Lady of La Salette meant by Rome will lose the faith, right?
Could be.
It's not.
Could have been geographically, yeah.
Right, yeah, like Rome will lose the faith, right? Among those who declare themselves as believers and say they go to Mass at least once a month, only 33% of Catholics confess at least once a year, while 32%, this is out of people who go to Mass. People who go to Mass, 33% or less confess once a year. 32, you're not following the 5 precepts of the church. That means they're not even Catholic in good standing, even though they're going to Mass. While 32% do not know the meaning of the Eucharist, which is pretty shocking.
That's actually better than American statistics.
Yeah, we're 30%, right?
Well, that was of all people saying they're Catholic. I think polls done of people who go to Mass, it's still
higher.
Like 50% of Americans don't believe in the Eucharist.
The other data contained in the study published are equally discouraging for the future of the church. In fact, fewer than 6 in 10 practitioners know what confession is. Wow.
Fewer than 6 in 10 know what it is?
Know what it is. Fewer than 6 in 10. That means only 40% of Catholics know what confession is. 66% of practitioners are wrong about or unaware of the definition of the resurrection of the body. And that's not all. Since 20% think that sin is a simple wrong done to others. Wow. Dude, this is bad. On the other hand, on ethical issues from abortion to gay marriage, practitioners have a de facto secularized vision, even if there is a clear opposition of believers to surrogacy and the illegalization of drugs. prayer remains a widespread practice. 1 in 5 believers say they pray every day, and 96%.
But even that's not widespread. 20%, only 20% pray every day.
No. 20%. Yeah. Say they pray every day. 96% do so at least from time to time. Meanwhile, 7 in 10 who go to mass believe in the existence of the devil. So, okay. So, and a lot of that prayer is centering prayer during yoga, I bet. Like when people say they pray, like they're not doing mental prayer. They're not, maybe not even the rosary. Like they're just, oh God, thank you for this. Or please help him with it. Like 90% of people's prayers are prayers for, supplication. And like, they're not,
it's not Thanksgiving. It's not.
Yeah. It's like, do this for me and thank you for this.
Right.
Having a musical guest to start the show is genius. Okay, so these figures are similar to those of the sociological survey published in 2021 by the Italian Episcopal Conference, which also reported a decrease in weekly attendance at Mass from 31% in 95 to 22% in 2020. That's less than America. Religiosity thus continues to lose the element of participation in Sunday Mass, down 9% from 95 to 2020.
That's more than America.
Yeah.
No. I mean, the people that go to Mass is more than America.
How many percentage of Catholics go to Mass?
12 to 15 after
in America.
COVID. Wow. Yeah, it was about 20%.
And it never bounced back?
It was about 20% before COVID, and it's been 12 to 15% since.
This is the total collapse of the church. Like, we're looking at a complete collapse, man. This is crazy. So this is not even factoring in the amount of, like, the percentage of that we went down in baptisms, right? So it's like we're talking about just people who claim to be Catholic.
Yeah.
Like that still identify as Catholic, which is crazy because like we've lost so many people who even get baptized in the faith anymore. This study shows the loss of the Catholic sense, the origin of which lies in the profound ignorance of the faith among the Italian population in general, and even among practicing Catholics. This ignorance has its origin not only in the secularization of society, but also in a rupture and transmission, the origin of which is dated back to the mid-1960s. It really, I understand it wasn't just the council, but man, that council, man, that council did damage.
Right, because we both agree, like, the council is not the origin of the issue. No. The council was an attempt to right the ship. But instead, I think it could be pretty easily argued that it sunk the ship. But it's not the cause.
Yeah,
of the storm itself.
I agree. Wait, didn't somebody tell us this on our show? Who was our last guest?
Who was that? We just talked. Was it Kennedy?
Kennedy. Yep. Kennedy told us that. That's right. Okay. So even independent and often non-believer sociologists are able to say, write, and demonstrate it. It is only the men of the church who do not see it and persist in a suicidal attitude for Catholicism, the responsibility for which they bear on their shoulders. But if they count on the World Synod to restore things, they are laboring under an astounding illusion. Listen, this is you want to see what the outcome of the synod's going to be? Look to the Anglican Church. Look to the Anglican Church. Like, why are we following in the footsteps of the Anglican Church? It has literally decimated the faith in England. Like, you guys don't realize how lucky we are that we have a Bishop Sample, that we have a Bishop Strickland, that we still have Paprocki, like that we still have a few bishops in America.
That we even have Barron.
Yeah. Listen, Barron catches a lot of grief. That I think Barron believes the faith, though. Like, he believes the faith. Like, he has a very von Balthasar-y way of looking at hell, and I disagree with him 100% with that. But he believes the faith, right? Like, he does have the desire to evangelize. That's the whole point of Word on Fire. He's trying to bring people into the church. He's doing what he can. What? What did I miss?
Don's starting a rumor.
What did Don say?
Hold on. It's going to load in a second.
Oh, boy. I was a Barron fan.
Yep. Ever since Barron moved to Minnesota, you know,
I'm just trying to be fair, right? Like, I don't. First off, is you do no good by bashing bishops. Like, you just don't. Like, whatever. I mean, the bad ones, whatever. But like, Barron's not. He's not an enemy of the church. He's an enemy of the liturgy. He's an enemy of some things, but he's not an enemy of the church. The guy, he's.
I think he operates in good faith. I'll say that.
I do too. I want to be fair to people, and I don't want to be that channel that just goes and bashes people. So the thing is, like, we still do have some good bishops. They don't have that in England anywhere. Like, none. There's not a single one. And the few that would have spoken up under Benedict are done. Like, they got told shut up, and they have shut up. And I heard that from Gavin Ashenden on his Catholic Unscripted episode when they were talking about the synod last episode. Like, he was the one that said that. I'm not just making that up. He's in England, and he's like, it's
that
beyond
any of the decent bishops or even higher standing bishops, right? That they did have come over in the last few years.
Wait, I'm sorry. Father Dave Nick sent me something. I thought it was an article and it was a video, so I thought we were going to read it. Wait, what'd you say?
I was just saying any of the good, so-called bishops or priests that they have come back to Rome in the last couple of years.
Really?
Yeah, there's been a few. I mean, there was just one announced within the last week, an Anglican bishop.
Oh, Anglicans
converted.
coming to Rome. Yeah. Now that guy. So the thing is, like, man, like, all right. So we were going to ask Gavin and Calvin Robinson on the same episode. Like, we were going to, and should I say this? What Gavin said?
I never know what you're going to say. That's the problem. Gavin cautioned us.
Yeah. So basically he said, look, I don't mind. I'll come on with Calvin. He goes, but it will get contentious because Calvin actually thinks he's Catholic, but he's not. And it's like, and we're going to get Calvin on. So I don't want this to ever be like us, but it's like, he talks like a Catholic, which is why so many people are shocked. It's like, Calvin, why are you not becoming Catholic? You talk like a Catholic. You're praying your rosary. You're reading Thomas Aquinas. You're doing all these things. Like, why are you not Catholic? He's like, I am Catholic. It's like, no, dude, you're not Catholic. So he just cautioned. He said, look, I'll come on, but it might get contentious because I can't, like, I'll never call him Father Calvin. Like, it's just, I'm not going to. He's not, and he had a good point. So,
and Gavin also said, like, Calvin's gone through a lot of struggles to get the ordination that he has gotten. Why would
and he's not a priest either. He's a deacon. He's a transitional deacon.
Yeah. But why would he threaten that and go through, more trouble when he thinks he is Catholic already?
Right. So it's like what Gavin Ashenden went through. If you guys never watched our the first interview with Gavin, he told us like what he went through when he tried to get ordained. Like, he tried to become a Catholic priest. Is that a packet of reports I see in Rob's room?
Oh man.
So he told us the story of what happened when he went to get ordained, and it was like what they put that man through. He just said whatever.
You could tell it to this day it still really hurts him.
Oh yeah, 100%. But he also will say, like, okay, I know that these things are happening in the Catholic Church and they're mimicking the Anglican Church, but this is the church to save. Like, this is where you bring the fight. You bring the fight to save the Catholic Church. This is the only church you can save.
Yep.
It's the church that Christ instituted. This is the one we have to save. So, like, even before this show, Rob had said to me, he's like, I'm just so done with the eschatology stuff. Like, it's just, I don't care about the end time stuff anymore. It's like we could get caught up in curiosity, and it could be dangerous, right?
It's never been my cup of tea.
Yeah. So where I actually do find it a little exciting, and so it's like I feel like what we're coming up on is something where it's like we have to figure out what we're going to do, right? Like we made the decision to actually start talking about these things, and not eschatology. I'm saying just the problems in the church, right? Like we've decided, like, okay, we can't pretend up is down anymore, and when something happens, we'll address it. We'll try to be as respectful as we can, but we're going to talk about these things, right?
Yeah, and you can only show so many snuff videos on the channel before it becomes more prudent to just talk about the stuff happening in the church.
It's like, yeah, but we also don't want to be drama merchants, right?
No,
like,
no.
Like we don't ever want to be drama merchants. So it's like, it's a tight balance. Like you really do have to, figure out how you want to do things. So then
See, I'm not the only one, Aunt. Samantha says
thank
no
you,
more,
Rob.
no more doomsday talk.
I've got enough to worry about avoiding groceries, being a good man, good mom. So listen, we'll only discuss those things if like an exciting guest comes on that knows his stuff. Like I don't
like. I shouldn't say I'm not like. Yeah, the discussions can be intellectually stimulating, and connecting them to typology and the past is fun and interesting, stuff like that. But in the end, I think you would agree with this 100% too, Anthony. But in the end, it's not going to affect how I live my life.
Oh,
yeah, raise my family.
Right.
Right. Whether the world ends tomorrow or 2,000 years from now, I'm not going to know it either way, and I just got to live my life. Aliens.
Don's wife's like a prepper, and like she's like, do you guys watch EWTN, The Journey Home? I've seen so many Journey Home episodes, Tom. Yeah, that's Don's
By the way,
wife's.
This is Don's wife's website, so go please check it out.
Yes. I've watched so many Journey Home episodes. I actually reached out to Marcus Grodi's son, John Grodi. John Mark Grodi, to see if he wanted to come on. That was when he just started taking over for his father. And he said, listen, I'm really busy right now. Maybe give me a few months. And so maybe I'll reach back out to him and see if he wants to come on. Because the Journey Home was so pivotal in my conversion. Like, I loved hearing Protestants' conversion stories. Like, it taught me so much about the faith.
I've since coming back, I've listened to a lot of them too. I mean, of course, you all can guess like the first conversion story I listened to, right? It's of course Scott Hahn.
Was it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah, I mean it's almost everyone's first conversion story that catches. But so I love listening to them too, and I don't know why, because I'm a cradle Catholic, and even when I wasn't practicing, I still believe. I never left. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me it was like hearing the cost, right? Like I still love a good conversion story. That's why I'm going to ask Keith Nestor about his conversion story, right? I asked Joshua Charles about his.
You want to hear John Henry Weston's conversion story?
I want to hear John Henry Weston's. I love a conversion story because you always like to see, like, first off, as a Protestant convert, like you're leaving everything. You're leaving sometimes your job, sometimes you're leaving your family, sometimes your wife doesn't come along with you. It's like it's just so contentious to be.
It is it'd be so most of the Protestant to Catholic conversion stories you hear, they do tend to be like Protestant pastors converting.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's kind of a selection bias where those are the ones that are most interesting and they're the ones that get the most traction. Or is there really like a disproportionate number of Protestant pastors that convert compared to, just your in the folding chair Protestant?
So the Journey Home, the Coming Home Network was set up to help Protestant pastors because Marcus Grodi was a Protestant pastor. And he's like, if there are Protestant pastors out there, like they need to know they can figure something else out. Maybe we'll help them get a book deal. Maybe we'll help them, we'll help them integrate their life to becoming Catholic. And so, I mean, Taylor Marshall was on there. I mean, everybody what's funny is like those Protestant converts of the 80s and 90s, the Stephen Ray. And I mean, it's so many of them are the reason we know our faith so well because they put such great catechetical stuff out because they read their way into the church through the fathers. And the Catholic Church was not putting anything out like that. It's like, so you saw the big hoopla on hoopla. Who says hoopla? You saw the big fiasco. What the hell is wrong with me? I just said hoopla.
Old timey talk with Anthony Abate, folks.
I just said hoopla. All right. Anyway, there was a big ordeal on Twitter the other day because
Gee golly, Anthony.
I had to turn Matt Pratt off the other day because he says golly. And I'm like, man,
Oh, I can't. Especially in his accent, it's just like,
golly.
stop
I
it.
had to turn him off. And I love Matt's show, Matt, especially if he has a good guest on, but he's like, golly. I'm like, all right, enough. Like, settle down. Golly. So all the speakers at the Eucharistic Congress are basically Franciscan guys, right? So you got like Father Mike Schmitz, you got all the, and you know, the Where Peter Is crowd was going nuts over it. It's like, oh, they think it's still 2013.
Father
thank
Mike's
you,
a Franciscan
Caitlin.
guy.
Who?
Father Mike, he didn't go to Franciscan, I don't think.
No, but he's with that crowd. Like he is.
You mean he's like a conservative?
Maybe they should have
normie.
said like Lighthouse Catholic Media crowd. Like they did pick a very. Why don't you pull that up? See who's speaking at the Eucharistic Congress. Maybe we could find that. So like the Where Peter Is crowd, it was the typical guys. It was Mike Lewis, C.W. Lafferty, and all those guys. They're all like, the bishops think it's still 2013, and I don't know why that these are the people that they're choosing.
DW? You mean the guy that had the fetish about the?
Yeah. He said, all right, so well, maybe we could get into that because we never got into that last week. I can't. Gee whiz, everybody's making fun of me. I'm rightfully so. You guys are making fun of me. And Jeff Cavins has one of my favorite talks on Lighthouse was a fan or follower of Jesus, right? Like he had that talk. It was like, are you a fan or are you a follower? And he really, you know, it was, I mean, those guys, they taught me. Okay, so let's see. You got Barron, Father Mike Schmitz, Chris Stefanik, like these are very Franciscan speakers. But I don't know why they got Katie Prejean in there. Why are they not happy about that? Who else? Scroll up anymore? Let's see. Yeah, it's like 3 people. I don't know what they make it. I mean, that's the only ones I recognize, right? Do you recognize anybody else? Like that Katie Prejean McGrady, she's like a leftist. She's like Dawn Eden, basically. I don't know what they're getting mad at, but I guess they saw Father Mike, Bishop Barron, and Chris Stefanik on there, and they were having a hissy fit.
I just realized my mic was muted through that whole thing.
Why would you say?
I was just saying, like, Katie McGrady rails against the death penalty. Like you said, she's basically a left cath.
She's Dawn Eden.
Huh?
She's like Dawn Eden. Like
almost, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've served mass for Bishop Cousins when he was a priest, but this isn't even like a really conservative lineup.
Go to the bottom. Go to the way bottom. The last that okay, so no, the bishop there. So he's the new bishop in the Bronx. He's the new auxiliary bishop in New York.
Now,
I actually like him.
Is Father is he one of the Franciscans in New York too? He's on EWTN, isn't he? As one of the like 3.
He might be, yeah. So you served mass for Cousins?
Yeah.
How was he?
I mean, solid, I would say. Pretty good.
Yeah, the bishop on the new auxiliary bishop for New York is solid too. Like look, he's very Novus Ordo bishop, you know, like he's not a traditionalist or anything, but I mean, at this point, you just want guys who believe the Catholic faith and preach the Orthodox faith. Like if you could get a priest or a bishop who's not talking about rainbow issues in a positive light, it's like, oh, we love the guy. It's crazy. Yeah. Michael often was on the journey home. Then afterwards, he left the church and became ortho. Probably the only time that happened. I'm not going to talk about it.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment. The Albany debacle. What's the Albany debacle?
Why does that sound familiar?
I don't know the Albany debacle.
I feel like I've heard something about it, but I didn't read it.
So, like Father Mike Schmitz, like I listen to his homilies every week on the way to mass with my kids. My kids love him.
Yeah.
My kids love him. I mean, he's got a great way of explaining things. He's just, I mean, he's just,
Oh, yep. That's right.
the old bishop got married. I didn't know that.
One of the former bishops was asking to get laicized so he could get married. They didn't grant laicization, so he went and had a ceremony. As they put it, he attempted marriage, and now they might actually laicize him for it.
Well, he should be excommunicated.
Yeah, but we don't do that anymore. Remember,
Not
That's
even laicized.
charitable.
That should be excommunicated. Like that, you're not Catholic anymore. How do you? I don't know. How old is the guy?
He's older.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Is it that important?
I didn't read the article, so I'm wondering if it's even. Did he try to marry a woman? Because
That's a good question.
That's not even a given these days.
No, and the thing is, if it's not a woman, then I understand why he did it. But if it is a woman,
They're saying
it's
he's 84.
Come on, dude. Come on.
You only
No
have
way
like
it still
10 more
works.
years to just live out your vocation.
There's no way. You know what? He was probably already having an affair, and he just
Yeah, I'm sure.
he didn't want to live a lie anymore. I mean,
Oh,
that's how these
yeah,
people
of course.
justify it. It was his caretaker. She's probably 60. He's probably got a ton of money, and she's like, "Oh,
Yeah, a ton of not I'm not in Albany, but
He's
a
got
ton of
that bishop
Albany's money.
Yeah. And then you want to, all right. So Pee Wee Herman. We'll do Pee Wee Herman, and then I want to talk about the Vatican considering the Mayan rite of Mass after Mexican bishops overwhelmingly approve it. So maybe we'll do that first, and then we'll end with Pee Wee Herman on a light note.
I'm not sure why he brings this up, but he's 100% right.
And since then, only Mussolini had success in the 20s and 30s, and all he was really good at was getting the trains to run on time. If you ever ask any Italian what they think of Mussolini, they secretly liked him. Like they can't say it because he was a fascist, but like if you mention Mussolini to any Italian who migrated to America, they'll go, "He made the trains run on time." It's like a
Which,
thing
if you
they
know
say.
anything about Italy, that is a miracle. This man was a miracle worker.
Every old giddy I work with that like is from the mother country. It's like, tell me about Mussolini. He made the trains run on time. I don't know. That's what they say. Every one of them. Oh man. All right, so let's bring up this. All right, so this is a LifeSite News
Which
article.
one?
John Henry Weston, we're a little upset with because he's still not responding to my texts. I'm gonna get him this clip. Yeah, it's like New Yorkers and Giuliani. Yeah, Giuliani, he could have gone down with a legacy after 9/11. He had to get involved with Trump. He had to go down that road and be the sweaty guy with his hair dye dripping down his face during the election fraud stuff. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Giuliani up there, and he's got his hair dye dripping down his face. It's the most embarrassing thing in the world.
Jeez.
Anthony makes me homesick for the neighborhood guys in Philly. All right, so let's get into this. All right, the Mayan rite contains various pagan elements and new liturgical offices, including a principal and an incessor who takes on roles of the priest.
They call that, don't they just call that a thurifer?
Incensor. Oh, I said incessor. I'm like, what's an incessor? Incensor. So somebody
that is
just
someone who
waves
does very bad things with.
Yeah. So it's somebody that waves the thurible, I guess. Mexico's Catholic bishops have overwhelmingly approved and sent to Rome their proposals for a Mayan rite of the Mass, which incorporates lay leadership and apparent elements of idolatry. LifeSite has received a copy of the text, now being examined by the Vatican, and presents elements of it below. On July 25th, the Mexican Bishops' Conference has submitted its proposals for an indigenous liturgical adaptation of the Mass to the Vatican's congregation, now it's a dicastery for divine worship, and the discipline of the sacraments. The Emeritus Bishop of San Cristobal de las Casas...
Dickistry,
that's Mark. Mark called it a dickistry. The Emeritus Bishop of San Cristobal de las Casas, Cardinal Felipe... I can do Spanish words better than... Italian words, described the proposed rite as advancing the progress of enculturation of the church in the native peoples and of taking responsibility for the celebration of Holy Mass with some elements of these cultures.
Why are we not advancing like converting people. What do I care about enculturation if no one goes to mass?
But wait, Mexico has been converted to Catholicism for 500 years. There are no more Mayans.
No, instead there's a bunch of Mormons and JWs and
they're
other
getting
Protestants
converts.
because of the
lack of catechesis from the Catholic hierarchy. You have evangelicals, Mormons, and Jehovah's Witnesses, and all of them going down and actually pulling these people out of the church. And instead of the church addressing that, what they're doing is going, let's put some paganism in our mass. That'll help. That's literally what's happening. So, all right, go ahead.
No, I was more or less gonna say what you're about to read. So,
All right, go ahead. You do it.
Arizmendi is one of the chief proponents of the initiative, and he has a record of overseeing the ordination of female deacons, which of course is impossible, and of formulating an indigenous rite of the Mass. Has received notable support from Francis.
Okay, so you texted me something earlier today, along the lines of.
I texted you a lot of things.
Yeah, I know, but about this, like along the lines of, like if you go to the Novus Ordo and defend it, like in principle, you can't have a problem with this, right?
The difference between what this is suggested to be in the Novus Ordo largely is a difference of degree, not of kind. The one possible difference of kind would be if they really did include like an actual idolatrous aspect to this, where they really are worshiping, say, a Pachamama. That would be like the one difference of kind. Otherwise, it's just a difference of degree. Like it's just another committee designing a rite out of thin air that's non-apostolic, that really has no connection to any former previous rite. Like you can't be against this and yet still say the Novus Ordo is the Roman Rite, because on principle you can't.
100. I agree with you totally on that. Like, do you think this will wake more people up to the, like? Because I feel like this is like, if they do it with a Mayan rite, they're going to also do it with
Amazonian
rite. They're going to do it with every indigenous people you can imagine. They'll do it with the Canadian indigenous. They'll do it with the New Zealand indigenous, and they're just going to just water down the actual Catholic Mass even more than it already is in the Novus Ordo.
And like, so where will this rite fall? Which one of the 24 churches in the Catholic Church will it fall in?
Well, are they going to consider it still the Novus Ordo, like the Roman Rite?
Yes, I'm sure that will be what it will be, like the Zaire use, right?
So what happened to the unique expression of the Roman Rite?
It doesn't exist. How can it be a unique expression when the Novus Ordo has a million different possible combinations? There's no logic to any of this.
So they're going to claim this is still the unique expression of the Roman Rite?
It will be the Mayan use of the Roman Rite.
So what's the Zaire use? Is that's in Africa?
Yeah, it's
where they do like liturgical dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's an African enculturated liturgy that's considered a use of the Novus Ordo rite.
When did that come about?
I don't know about the Zaire use. I mean, there's other rites in the Latin Church, of course. You have the Moso-Arabic, you have the different Gallican rites, you have the Ambrosian rites.
But
stuff
are
like that.
all of those a play on the Novus Ordo, or are those?
No, those are all separate rites and actually have apostolic origins.
Okay, so they're
all part of the Latin Church, but they are considered separate rites from the Roman rite.
So the Zaire use, is that a Novus Ordo, or is that?
Yeah. Well, Zaire use of the Roman rite. Now, does Zaire use have any connection to the TLM, the traditional Roman rite? Of course not. It's just an enculturated Novus Ordo.
All right, but dancing, it's mainly just dancing and music that they added there, right?
Like the ordinariate is the Anglican or ordinariate use of the Roman rite, of the Novus Ordo rite.
Right, but all right, so the ordinariate, though, isn't a Novus Ordo Mass, right?
It's a different liturgy. It's basically the Cranmer liturgy. but it's considered a use of the Roman rite. And of course, like you said, the unique expression of the Roman rite is the Novus Ordo.
Yeah, that's preposterous. That's preposterous. Especially like you can't even get a Roman rite. You can't even get a Novus Ordo in one diocese to look the same. Like you really can't. Like you go to 3 different parishes in my diocese in Rockville Center, and every one of them will look. I mean, they'll have the same structure, but you're gonna get some wacky stuff.
You can go to the Novus Ordo celebrated by the same priest at the same parish, 2 or 3 times in the day, and it will be a completely different mass, because for the old people that go to the earlier mass, they need the traditional liturgy, even though it's just the Novus Ordo liturgy with 60s folk hymns. And then you have a contemporary liturgy later in the day, which has the rock band playing with tambourines.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It could be the same priest celebrating the kids' mass.
Yep.
The kids' mass always drove me nuts with the puppets. Like when I was a kid, there was a priest who did the kids' mass, and he had puppets out, and then we all found out that he is a kid toucher. Of course, he's doing the kids' mass with the puppets and getting everybody to come near him. Yeah, no, I'm just here to evangelize the children.
Yeah, one of our priests when I was growing up, one of the priests we had after our longtime priest passed away, he played Chubby Bunny with all the youth groups, where you stuff all the marshmallows.
Marshmallows,
where people have choked to death and died. He was laid to have had inappropriate relationships.
Of course,
with not sexual, but I don't know why they were inappropriate. But he was put away for a few years.
These guys. So Tyler says the Anglican ordinary uses the Novus Ordo lectionary. Now, let me tell you something. The problem with the Novus Ordo lectionary is not the lectionary. It's that they stripped away all of the meaningful language from it. Like they took out all the hard passages, any references to hell, any references to wifely submission in Ephesians. Like they took out all of the challenging.
Don't even read the part where Paul says you condemn yourself if you receive unworthily.
Right. So they took out all of the challenging readings, but the lectionary itself, like there's something awesome about if you get, like they'll read an Old Testament reading and then the New Testament fulfillment. So you'll see the typology fulfilled in that mass, but no priest ever addresses it.
In the sermon?
It's not like in the homily you're hearing the priest break it down and go, okay, well, look, this is what happens in the Old Testament and it's fulfilled in the New. Like there could be amazing catechetical moments if these priests understood typology even, but they had such poor formation, they don't even know the faith.
Yeah. One of the more egregious changes, in my opinion, this isn't so much the actual lectionary of the Mass, but the liturgy of the hours, like the divine office, that like the priests used to read the whole Psalter, right? All 150 Psalms. It used to be once a week back before Pius X, but like that, though, like that's all the priest could do throughout a day, basically at that point. So Pius X changed it, whether that was right or wrong, who knows? But you'd still over a period of time read all 150 Psalms. You'd pray all 150 Psalms.
Yeah.
The liturgy of the hours removed entire Psalms, all the imprecatory
and
Psalms.
dumbed down and softened the language on so many of them. Yes, the Lutherans do use the Novus Ordo lectionary. My wife was Missouri Synod Lutheran, and I used to argue the readings with her pastor when I first started taking my faith seriously.
The Protestants, I don't know what first group did it, but they created what they call the common lectionary, and a lot of the mainline Protestant sects use it, and it was modeled after the Novus Ordo lectionary.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's just a sorry state of affairs we all are dealing with. Oh, man. Well, okay, so then this week we had Sinead O'Connor and Pee Wee Herman passed.
Wait, who was the first one?
Sinead O'Connor. So
is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
I thought it was Sinead or
No,
I don't
Sinead.
know. I honestly had no idea who
Yeah,
she really
Sinead
was.
O'Connor. So Sinead O'Connor passed, and I wrote a tweet saying, I I I pray she made her peace with God. I know she lived a troubled life. That's all I said. I pray she made her peace with God. I know she had a troubled life.
Mm-hmm.
I got lambasted
Well,
by everyone
yeah,
telling
but
me. God,
you do it. You post that reply on like the big news story, the big secular news story.
yeah,
Like, come on now, admit you do it knowing you're going to get those responses.
So I posted. I wrote. I said. I pray she made peace with God. I know she lived a troubled life, and everybody comes down on me. Why don't you take the speck out of your eye? Why don't you take the log out of your own eye before you point the speck out in her eye? You make Christians look bad. You're the reason I'll never go to church. This is all the comments I'm getting. And I'm like, I prayed for the woman's soul.
Here's the thing. Yeah. Publicly, you're like, why are you upset with me? Private, you're like, I knew that was going to happen. You know what you did? You pulled a Joe Boca.
That's basically it. So then Pee Wee Herman died. And we all know, like, Pee Wee Herman got in trouble for...
there was some sort of child sex thing there, right?
No, it wasn't child sex. He was in a theater and he exposed himself.
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
Was, whatever, doing something. So he got arrested for that. So I said something similar. I said, what did I write today?
Something similar on the secular news story again.
News story. I said, I pray he made his peace with God. Something along that line. And it's like, I pray that I make peace with God and that people pray for me when I die. I don't understand how that's judgmental.
But you don't put that in that same tweet. You wait until they respond angrily and then you say that. And I know how much fun you have with
him on air. You're not supposed to call me out on air.
It's like when I'll be perfectly honest and self-reflective here. It's the same thing I do when I post a tweet critical of the Novus Ordo and wait for someone to say something about me being a trad, and then I just reply, but I go to the Novus Ordo every week.
I'm at the Novus Ordo every week. I don't even go to the Latin Mass. It's just people are very easy to rile up. It is funny how easily people get riled up, man. I still get people mad at me when I post my women stinking driving posts. Like people call me misogynist. It's like,
it has gone down. A lot of people have realized what it is.
But I got a lunatic today telling me, this is what he said. I said something about women drivers, and he wrote, "What are you going to do when they impeach Joe Biden and Kamala Harris becomes president, you misogynist?"
Laugh? I mean, what are we supposed to do?
I don't care who the president is. You think I care who the president is? How does my life change when the presidents change? Well, actually, things were pretty good under Trump, I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, if Trump was president, I don't think we'd be funding a proxy war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd be about to fund a proxy war in Africa like we're about to.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Like, first off, they had drones strike Moscow today and
Ukraine
yesterday.
did, yeah.
All right. You really think that Moscow... Well, first off, we say Ukraine did, but like Russia knows it's a proxy war with America.
It's American drones paid for with American dollars, pilots trained by Americans, yeah.
So it's like, Look, I have a 17-year-old son. He turns 18 in December, and I watch this stuff, and I'm just like, and I watch people supporting the Ukraine. I see their Ukrainian flags. I'm like, you idiots! Like, don't you know what they're doing right now? Like, don't you see? Like, do you not think America knows exactly what it's doing by striking Moscow? Like, they are trying to amp this thing up.
Well, and it's like Adrian said, like, for those who aren't following or only follow what like the news media says, like, Ukraine is lost. This big summer offensive, spring offensive, that was supposed to just wipe the Russians away, it failed weeks ago. Like, I mean,
they're shooting soldiers that are leaving the front lines because they're terrified. Like, they know they're going in to be slaughtered. So they're just they're shooting runaways, like
Like you'll have a Russian position sit there, take out an entire Ukrainian battalion, and then fall back a mile, and the Ukrainians will think, oh, we took a mile. It's like, yeah, but if that's just of your own territory. Russia's just waiting. Russia's bleeding them dry until there's nothing in front of them anymore, until and then there's no one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think this whole strike Moscow thing is the U.S. knows Ukraine cannot win this war, so they need Russia. They're provoking Russia to attack NATO.
Yes.
They're provoking Russia to attack a NATO country so that they have an excuse to send NATO in full force on Russia.
Right, because so far there hasn't been anything that would actually legitimately trigger Article 5.
Nope. No, Russia's smart, dude. They know what they're doing. But if their capital, Moscow is Russia. Like Moscow is their capital. Like you can't think that a drone strike in Moscow 3 times in the past 2 weeks is not going to trigger. Like I'm in New York, man.
Plus, it's complete. There's no point to it. I don't even know if they killed anyone, and even if they did, what are they doing? Killing a 20-year-old Russian girl hundreds of miles away from the border for what? It doesn't stop the artillery that's raining down on.
I think they are trying to provoke Russia into doing something to a NATO country so that they have an excuse to go full force with NATO, and that'll be a wrap. Like, it's just crazy what's going on right now.
And I think people, from the way the war went the first year, I think people have a warped sense of Russia's capability. Like everyone thought Russia was just going to sweep in and just destroy them, right? Well, number one, Russia only sent about 70,000 soldiers in on their invasion. And like right now, Russia has 800,000 soldiers on the border in defense. Like Russia sent a relatively very small force in, and it was largely almost as a decoy towards Kiev, so that Russia could take the eastern part of Ukraine that has all the resources and has the Russian-speaking population. Like Russia's little thrust towards Ukraine or towards Kiev allowed them to take that with only 70,000 people. And now they have 10 times that number defending it against a Ukrainian military that's been absolutely decimated and is only standing up because America has put all of our money, all of our resources towards propping them up.
It's so crazy, dude. I think Russia never intended to just go in and sweep over Ukraine. They always intended to make this a long, dragged out thing, make everybody like you hear our military and they're like, we're just trying to get Russia to spend up their forces, and Russia is in this thing for the long haul. They're not going anywhere. I don't know, man. I don't think it was ever going to be this run in and sweep through Ukraine and take the whole country. They don't want the whole country.
I think what we really see is that, especially with the way Russia invaded, is that they really it honestly was not their long-term intention to do that. Like their long-term intention was to keep Ukraine from being a threat to them, whether that meant having them be a political ally like they were prior to the 2014 color revolution, more or less started by the CIA, or whether it was just to keep them neutral. Like they just did not. The border between Russia and Ukraine it's not a defensive border. It's open steppe, right? So that area of Russia is always really rather vulnerable. So they need that state, that Ukrainian state next to them to not be a threat. What Russia saw in the weeks prior to the invasion was over 2,000 cases of Ukrainian forces breaking the ceasefire and firing on Russian militias or Russian-speaking peoples, things like that. And I think Russia made possibly the wrong, I think the decision to invade was still wrong, but it wasn't like this pre-thought out long-term strategy to take their neighbor, to take and rape their neighbor.
Yeah, this is a weird one, man. I just see the war drums getting banged, wars and rumors of wars, and now we see this thing in in Africa happening, where in Africa, what's going on in Africa? Did you have the story on that?
Yeah, so I can pull up the tweet to show the map. Basically, what has happened recently is in Niger, the the
That's not how you
French.
pronounce it. How do you pronounce it?
Don't you make me.
You can't say it with an A.
Here, I'll
Niger?
pull up
Is
the
it
map.
Niger?
So here in Niger,
Look, you guys see, I'm letting Rob knows his stuff when it comes to this stuff. That's why I'm listening.
so this area of Africa is French Africa, right? Like this is the area converted by Lefebvre and the Holy Ghost Fathers. These were more or less French client states, especially like Algeria here towards the top. But Niger had more or less a French-friendly regime, honestly a French puppet regime.
Yeah.
And Niger was sending all of their uranium. Niger actually has a large uranium deposits. Niger was supplying France with uranium, mostly for French nuclear reactors, but France also does have a nuclear weapons program too. But what happened is there was a military coup, overthrew the French puppet regime in Niger. And then on the map here, you see all these green countries. It's more or less like an international organization supported by France and the U.S. The red countries were kicked out and are suspended from joining. Niger was part of ECOWAS, or however you pronounce it. But now they are, because of this coup, also suspended. And these countries in green are saying that they will go to war with these other countries here. And France and U.S. are saying that they will support these countries in green. But the big kicker is Algeria here at the top, the gray colored country up top here. So they were also a French colony, but they're saying that they will allow shipments from Russia and Iran and China through their ports to support Niger and like Mali, because most of these countries in red here don't have ports. They're landlocked. Yeah. Algeria is saying they will allow transfers of military goods to these countries. So we're looking at like a multinational war here in West Africa,
where Russia is supporting Niger and
the U.S. and France are supporting
all the
other nations. Yeah.
So you're looking at a proxy war between. So you're just looking at more of the same. This is just another proxy war, and I just saw like the new president of Niger out talking about how he feels like Russia is their brothers and all this stuff. Like this thing's gonna amp up quick.
Yeah, and if we think the human cost of Ukraine has been bad, I mean Ukraine had a fairly decent, I wouldn't have called them a first world nation, but they had a decent infrastructure, things like that. But West Africa here is a part of the world that's been suffering since the end of colonialism.
Yeah, like
if you have a proxy war between world powers here in this part of the world, you're going to see famine. You're going to see slaughter. I mean, it's going to be terrible,
dude. This is your forte, man. I'm so glad we talked about this. You just taught me so much. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm so glad this came up. Dude, I don't know, man. The world is just getting so crazy. It's just, I have a 17-year-old son, and I worry about this because I know they're going to freak. Because I think I posted an article in there today.
Yeah, you did.
Right? I did, about the draft.
Yeah, people are starting to push for a limited draft.
Where is it? I think it was the last one I put in, right? Uncertain. Okay, let's just read this before we get off. Uncertain future of the U.S. military's all-volunteer force. The U.S. military has a manpower problem, and it's not just due to today's recruiting shortages. It's time for a comprehensive plan to solve the personnel shortfall. This year marks the 50th year anniversary of the United States all-volunteer military force. It also coincides with one of the worst recruiting years for the U.S. military since 1973.
Why.
Well, I wonder why. Keep putting your rainbow ads out there, guys. It's really making people want to fight for their country. I'd rather my son do anything. Like, I would let him go to prison before fighting for this country right now. The Army missed the 2022 recruiting goal by 15,000 soldiers, and the Army, Air Force, and Navy all expect to miss their goals in 23. The shortage is blamed on a confluence of domestic issues, a competitive job market, lack of in-person recruiting during the pandemic, and a population of young adults who are less informed, less interested. Maybe they're more informed, more and less interested, and less qualified for military service. The lack of qualified recruits has received a lot of attention, but the fact that our young population does not see the value of military service should also ignite a great concern. Yeah, maybe you guys should stop driving this country to hate themselves. Like, they literally hate patriotism. They're burning American flags. Like, what is wrong with these people? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I worked towards getting into West Point out of high school. Like, I got accepted, couldn't serve for medical reasons, but like, that's what I wanted to do. And I am so glad I did not get that opportunity now, because how could I in good conscience, serve to further the goals of, I mean, let's be honest, when Mohammedans call us the great Satan, do any of us really like actually disagree with that anymore? I don't.
No, we were talking, I know you don't like talking end times, but like the whore of Babylon is probably America. Like, we are,
or our greatest ally.
Yeah, like, we are the evil empire.
Yeah.
But what they're talking about, like missing recruitments and transition to an all-volunteer force, like, so the global war on terror, basically what they're saying is we need to reinforce the draft and actually start using the draft. So the draft under consideration, December 31st, 2002, a year after the start of the Operation Enduring Freedom, the opinion page of the New York Times read, "Bring back the draft." Representative Charles Rangel, who voted against the Iraq War, warned that an all-volunteer force would lead to an adventurism and thought a renewed draft would help citizens appreciate the cost of war. By 2004, despite sending 130,000 soldiers into Iraq during the invasion, any debate about enacting a draft was over. The House of Representatives held a vote to implement the draft, primarily to draw criticism to the Iraq War during an election year. The bill was rejected. So, I mean, look, they're just trying to bring up the draft again. I mean, every one of us, when you go to get your license, register for the draft, right?
Including women now.
Do they?
I thought
I didn't know they made them do that yet.
I know it's been talked about. Oh, I see Mike graduated from West Point here.
Yeah, so, oh man. I just
if they start drafting all the women, who will take care of the cats?
That's actually a great line. That's a good line, Paul. Oh man, it really there's no female draft yet. Yeah, okay. I know they talked about it, but I don't think there is one yet. It's just getting so crazy, man. I don't know. In the church, in the world, pray for our country, pray for our church, pray for the Pope. Please, Lord, get us out of this. We need help. All right, man. We did an hour and 45 tonight. That's a long one.
It felt rather short, to be honest.
Yeah, it did. I think it was good. We'll cut some clips up. We'll get rid of the 30 minutes of bro talk in the beginning for everybody. We'll put some clips up. You know what it is? That you can edit in StreamYard now. It's great.
That is a lot easier, honestly.
Yeah, I don't have to actually like screen record and stuff. Anthony looks tired. Busy day lounging in the skid steer.
Yeah, you showed us all what you do now.
Well, that was in a regular day, though. A regular day, I do way less.
Regular day, truck. Watch the iPad.
Day, I'm in my pickup truck. That was actually a private job we did, which we don't usually do. We don't usually do private jobs. But it was so cool because we were done by 11 a.m. And because of the heat, Con Ed shut down. So we weren't able to do anything after. So I called my uncle and I'm like, hey, we're done. Me and Mike are coming to take your boat. And I was kidding. And he's like, well, nobody's used it all season. It could use a run. I'm like, we're on our way. So I took my friend Mike and my friend Carlo. We went to my uncle's house, took his boat. We went to Freeport, Nautical Mile, had lunch, and then we drove to Fire Island and had rocket fuels for dinner. It was a fun day. And his boat is a lot better than mine. Oh, you know what? Dude, I hate that I'm waiting till the end of the show to do this. First off, like and subscribe, guys. We're awful. 46% of our audience is not subscribed. And the other thing is we're one away on locals.
We are.
One away.
One more person subscribes, we can do hour-long shows.
Hour-long shows on locals. We could do trivia. Honestly, what I want to do on locals, I want to bring, out of the 50 people who are subscribed on locals, if any of you want to join us for a show, I can't do everyone, but like,
Right.
if you are a paid subscriber and you want to come on the show and hang with us for a night, we'll do like one person a month or something, and we'll do something like that. Can't be every episode because we have other guests, but maybe one. I'll take my locals back if y'all don't want more local stuff. If you don't start doing more local stuff, we are going to. We need one more.
You know what? I said it on Twitter today. So we just hit 4,000 subs. When we hit 5,000, we should do an old time trivia show with all the regulars.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good 5,000 sub show.
I mean, I want to do something. I want to do trivia soon. I actually do. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready to bring it back. My trauma.
It's only been 4 months. I'm ready.
My trauma's over. Great stream.
Thank you, Short Farrell.
You guys don't understand how much we appreciate stuff like this. You don't realize it really does help encourage us to keep going. But yeah, if one more person joins, we're going to do something special on locals. And like I said, we'll see if we could do maybe once a month, bring one of the local subscribers on stream to just come and hang for an off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys could share you guys are in the chat always with your comments. If anybody wants to come on, we'll do an off the rails once a month with a local subscriber. It'll take 2 years to get everyone on. It'll take 4 years.
We'll be long canceled because something one of those guys says before then.
Or maybe we'll do a local stream and bring 3 or 4 on at a time. Yeah. You get to 50 on locals, we get to get a ride on Anthony's boat. Come on, cheapos. Help us
Paul,
out.
You might not have been around when Anthony did a show from his boat.
I did do it in my driveway, though.
Intoxicated.
I was very intoxicated. My wife came up drunk. My wife walked over from the neighbors. She had a few glasses of wine, and she jumped on the stream.
First time she was ever on camera.
Yeah, and Rob's like, dude, that's so out of character for your wife. I'm like, she's a little tipsy, bro. She's like, hi, guys.
No, Caitlin, it's not that big.
No, it's a very small boat. All right, so yeah, guys, please join our locals. Please hit like and subscribe if you aren't already. 46% of our audience is not subscribed. That's insane. We could be up to 7,000 right now. So, all right, let's wrap it up. We're going to need a bigger boat.
What do you think the locals is for?
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't made anything yet.
What are you going to do with the boat when we move to Tennessee?
Oh, man, I'll go on a lake. I'll find a lake. We haven't made enough money to pay for Rob's plane tickets to Pennsylvania yet.
Not even close.
No, so that's what we're trying to aim for right now.
Yep.
But all right, take us out, bro.
Okay.
Unite the clans. Enoch. Let's go. Unite the clans. Enoch. Let's go. Yo. Take me back to my reversion. Unite the clan.